Before viewing video lessons, it is important to read the textbook using the learning guide as your turn-by-turn directions. Then use the learning guide to take organized notes in your own words with examples and pictures.
So, how do we do research on psychopathology? The same way we do research on functional psychological issues. How do you do research on functional psychology? The same way you do research on any natural phenomenon in any science, right? Science is science is science is science. So the process that we're going to engage in to study psychological issues, how common are they? Who is most likely to develop these different disorders? What causes these disorders? Which treatments are most effective? Is there some way we can prevent this disorder? It's all going to be based on the same scientific process that applies to all sciences. There is one key area, though, that we need to talk about because it is a little bit different for us. And that's going to be this piece right here for ethics. So how you study something involving living beings, which people are, requires you to look at ethics. Because unlike a rock, I can't knock you with a hammer and break you open and see what's inside, or light you on fire, or do all the different things we do when we're studying the physical world. So the ethics code is going to be the same as the ethics code you learned about in Gen Psych. But now we're dealing with people who have psychological dysfunction, which is going to make it a little bit different. So, still have to get approval from an institutional review board before we start. It's true of all science that involves the potential of harm or something happening to a living being, right? So if you're doing animals or people, you got to do this. Where it gets a little bit messy for us comes in at the level of informed consent. So before I can experiment on you, before I can collect data from you, or manipulate your functioning in some way, before I can give you a drug or a placebo, I have to tell you ahead of time what might happen. You have to be cognitively functional enough to understand that and voluntarily agree. That's my 2-minute one. Could that be a problem for some of the psychological disorders we're talking about in class?
Oh, yes.
So, this is the piece that makes it a little bit different for us. Now, other things still apply equally. You are not allowed to deceive unless the deception is absolutely necessary for the hypothesis and the deception is not potentially harmful. So I can't deceive you about potential harm. That's not allowed, okay? And that's the same in all research. I'm not allowed to harm you, which would be called long-term damage, but I can make you a little uncomfortable in the name of research. And then the final piece is I have to keep your individual information private, but that's going to fall under the same guidelines that also apply to a therapist relationship, which is if you told me about the potential harm to somebody, yourself, somebody else, I would be required as a researcher to break confidentiality to protect you or the other person. So if you were telling me you were suicidal, I would break confidentiality to protect you. If you told me you were abusing somebody else or planned to kill somebody else, break confidentiality to protect the other person. Okay? All right. So, research is research is research.